Hello and welcome to Prayer School or School for Prayer Week 3. This week we're focusing on a kind of Franciscan prayer. In modern terms we would probably call it creation spirituality or deep ecology or even holistic gospel, but its roots are ancient in the Celtic tradition and also of course in the tradition started by St. Francis and Clare, and also from the music and poetry of Hildegard of Bingen, who's a great favourite of mine. This time last year, we were just heading into lockdown for the first time. A few weeks later, and we were all desperate for our 1 hour of exercise per day, or I was anyway. Our 1 hour of outdoors, witnessing one of the most amazing springs on record. An extraordinary contrast to the dark gloom of the virus. In those few months, I know a lot of people became more aware of the Franciscan way of seeing God in everything. Many of us discovered the local woods to be our cathedral, or even, because of the relative safety of there being nobody around, watched a daily rerun of creation at dawn, leaving home earlier and earlier as we headed toward the solstice. I'm reminded here of the ever-quotable G.K. Chesterton, who states, "A religion is not the church one goes to, but the cosmos one lives in." I wonder if, deprived of our usual church, many of us discovered that the entire physical world around us, all of creation, is actually the hiding place and the revelation place for God. Perhaps we realised this world to be enchanted, sacred, offering nothing short of pure grace to us when we choose to look deeply. COVID has been a time of revelation. But how do we look deeply? St. Francis, who's alive in the 12th century, called all aspects of creation his brothers and sisters, no matter how vast or how small. Why? Well, it's because we all have the same source, the same father, the same parents, if you want to look at it in that way. God is the source of all being. Francis wrote a poem called Canticle of the Creatures, where he praises God for the very existence of Brother Sun, Sister Moon, the stars, Sister Water, Brother Wind, Sister Mother Earth, and Sister Death of the Body. Sister Death of the Body. That's a strange one, isn't it? And he says he includes death because he says, for those who do the will of God, the second death will do them no harm. In fact, the opposite. So God is praised for Sister Death. The canticle bears a certain likeness to Psalm 104, which you might like to look up as part of your homework. And it's been turned into the hymn, All Creatures of Our God and King. But without the familial brother and sister, which rather misses the point, I feel. To address an animal or a plant, or earth or rock or water as brother or sister, opens up a level of communication, not just extremely intimate, but, if practiced, might lead to your discovering that you can experience a sense of oneness. of not being separate from the flower or the bird or the lamb or whatever. And of course, this is the truth. We are all one. God is one. And in Christ, we are one. Our separation is, in a sense, an illusion. God is the source of all being. God is in everything. The more intimately we relate to each individual aspect of creation, the closer we come to God. Ultimately, the closer we come to union with God. So this so-called Franciscan way of prayer that we'll look at today is not just some minority interest. It's core. So now to practice. I was going to film this outside, but the wind in Weston-super-Mare makes it a tad difficult. So I'm indoors. All the instructions are in your little booklet, and this is really your homework. This kind of prayer has to be done outside, or at the very least, sitting at an open window. So think about where you'd like to go or be. If you're going to be using your you're going to be using your five senses: seeing, hearing, touching, smelling and tasting. The booklet suggests taking a piece of fruit with you for a smelling and tasting session. But if you forget, it's perfectly possible to smell and taste things in the natural environment. Just opening your mouth will allow you to taste the air. But if that's too subtle, bring your orange. I suggest you begin the process before arriving at your chosen spot. In fact, the minute you go out the door, or the minute you get out of your chair. Because your chosen spot can be the garden. You don't have to hike off into the woods or the mountains. As human beings in bodies, we have to experience everything through our senses, including all things spiritual. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the Jesuit writer of Hymn of the Universe, says, "To understand the world is not enough. You must see it, touch it, be in its presence." So this is about experience. It's not about intellectual knowing. And this is typical of Francis. He was definitely not an intellectual. So in order to pray, it's important to be fully present. In a way, presence is prayer. If you're fully present, if you're fully grounded in this moment, that's prayer. A good way to start is to notice the contact that you're making with the ground as you walk or stand. Notice the sensation in your feet as you tread on different surfaces. Feel your connection to the earth. Thus grounded, literally earthed. Stop and notice what you can see. What attracts your attention? A tree? A flower? Look more closely. Look with your heart as well as your eyes. No need to analyse. Just connect. Notice your experience. Just know that deep down and way back, you come from the same source. You are related. In fact, you are one. Now turn your attention to listening. If you were looking at the sea, you might now listen to it. If you're looking at a tree, you might now listen to the wind through the branches. Or you might hear something different. A bird song perhaps. Connect with the sound. Fully experience it. If a bird is singing to you, you may want to reply. Notice how it feels to connect with another living creature. When you're done with listening, notice the various sensations on your skin, the wind in your hair, the sun on your face. Luxuriate in it. Maybe run your fingers through grass or stroke the bark of a tree. Connect with the elements through touch. Really connect. Keep doing it for as long as you like. Then move on to taste and smell. If you've brought fruit, now's the time to bite into it and notice the effect on your taste buds. Where in your mouth do you feel it? Notice the smell. Is it the same as the taste? Allow yourself to really enjoy the flavour, the sensation, and the smell. If you haven't brought fruit, then notice what you can smell in the air. If you're by the sea, you might smell seaweed or salt. If in the woods, leaf mould, or at this time of year, maybe even wild garlic. Can you taste anything from the air on your tongue? Allow yourself to sink deeply into the connection you make at each stage. And know that however beautiful each aspect of creation that you connect with, you are uniting with a far greater source, the source of all being, and give thanks. So, I wonder how you'll get on. I wonder whether you doubt this is prayer at all. I wonder whether you feel something is a bit scary about being close to God, and whether it's impossible to be one with God in Christ. So, how is it possible? How is it possible to experience God through nature? Well, you may have heard me talk about this before when I've been talking about being Franciscan. John's Gospel, John chapter 1, tells us that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Christ is the Word. Christ is God spoken into being. God said, "Let there be light." Christ is the light. Christ was there in the beginning, the first moment of creation. Franciscan spirituality celebrates this. Franciscan theologians say that the first incarnation was the creation, and that God can be found in all aspects of creation. All aspects of creation are God made manifest. And so God can be found in the forms that can be experienced through the senses. The forms that we see on our walks through the woods, by the sea, around the house, wherever you happen to be. The second incarnation was in Jesus, a man in whom the opposites were united, heaven and earth, spirit and matter, a man who was fully human and fully divine. God made manifest, God made flesh, God in human form. And Jesus came to teach us how to live in full relationship with each other, with the whole of creation, and with God. Jesus, who came to unite all these aspects that had somehow forgotten that they were once one. All these thousands of different manifestations are somehow remembered in Christ to be one, and we are one. The Franciscan way of life and prayer seeks to honour this and to follow Christ in the simple way of Francis, more a way of the heart than of the intellect. So, obviously, homework this week is to go out and do it. To go out and experience the created world, to go out and immerse yourself in aspects of nature, to speak to aspects of nature and to be spoken to. So we've talked about Franciscan prayer whilst walking in nature, but can you see it working with other activities? Could you translate it into other aspects of your daily life? So that's one question to ponder. Another is, can you see this kind of prayer working for you? Do you do it already? How might you adapt it if you couldn't go outside? What do you like and what do you dislike about the process? Lots to ponder, and I hope lots to discuss. Thank you.